defended Ogolla of any wrongdoing, saying that he was pushed by his superiors to go to the BOMAS to try and force a runoff in the 2022 presidential election race. But as KTN's political affairs reporter Emmanuel To now explains, Duale disclosed that President William Ruto has directed that no juniors will sit in for their superiors in the powerful National Security Advisory Committee going forward. This is a very important story that will inform the conversation here moving forward. Let's listen in.
Close to 2 years since the heated and tension-filled action at the BOMAS of Kenya on August 15, 2022, with allegations that a delegation from the powerful National Security Advisory Committee had visited the venue to try and force a runoff in the closely contested presidential race. During the burial of General Ogola, Defense CS Aiden Duale in Ngia Alego in Siaya County revealed details of how the late chief of the Kenya Defense Forces was hoodwinked into an alleged plot to interfere with the outcome of the 2022 presidential election.
General Ogola, as a respectable soldier and general, he asked and sent a text message to his bosses and asked, "What am I going to do in BOMAS?" And this has happened. And General Ogola was told, "It's been decided, you go."
Duale stated that powerful individuals had told the Vice CDF then that he was only going to avert a possible security situation, only to find himself in the middle of the murky political waters.
And the 411 came while he was in BOMAS, saying the results will be announced at 3. And General Ogola then again sent a text message and saying, now that the result will be announced at 3, as a general, as a soldier, what am I doing here? And he was told, stay with your colleague. That text message is there.
Duale detailing a string of text messages between Robert Kiboshi, who was the then CDF, and General Ogola, including one where he told his boss that, quote, "Sir, this is not about security but about politics." Duale saying that some members of NSAC had tried to twist the late CDF.
Honorable Raila Odinga was very right. Very right. And I came today to qualify his statement that General Ogola, a man he knows, would not have gone to BOMAS. And the people who sent him to BOMAS, some of them are here. Some of the people who sent him to BOMAS, are known.
Duale adding that going forward, the president has directed that members of the powerful organ should not delegate their duties to their juniors to sit in the committee.
Tomorrow, another member of the National Security Committee will commit the same crime.
The revelations come a day after the Azimio leader Raila Odinga distanced Ogolla from any wrongdoing in the 2022 polls.
General Ogola would never have contemplated or thought about going to BOMAS of Kenya to force Mr. Chebukati to alter the results of last general elections. So if you want this to be removed, I should lay him to rest.
And with his death, the family hopes that the ghosts of August 15, 2022, that smeared mud on his illustrious career will be put to rest, and that his track record as a dedicated and outstanding leader is upheld. Emmanuel To, KTN News, Nairobi.
All right, as objective as we can make it, Honorable Makali, you know, the president had spoken on this very firmly, in fact, in earlier interviews, saying the late General Ogola indeed had a hand, and they ironed issues out. To hear what CS Duale is saying at this point in time, the electorates do deserve some sort of clarity and streamlined, remarks.
You know, Doris, what you are saying is, there's something you have said which is very important. That what lessons are we learning from what is happening?
Right.
The truth of the matter is General Ogola is dead and buried. When you are dead, you don't respond to issues. So people are likely to say many things because they know you cannot verify the information or say no to it. But I think what we need to really look at is what lessons have we picked from this death? And why am I saying this? It's because very soon we'll be having another person occupying that office, and work will continue. We are not sure whether the next one will die in office or out of office.
Are we creating fear for the office?
But with the time, obvious, people will occupy that office and will die.
All right.
So what we should be doing, and that's why I like what Honorable Chamatia was saying, the issue of being objective. And that's why I don't take it very lightly when I hear my friend Honorable Ruku talks about people being arrested in the 20th century. That is history. It was there in the past, it will never happen again. People have freedom of expression. You can say what you want, and then it's for people to confirm whether it's true or not true. But what we're saying is now, looking at what Duale is saying, and what the president has said, you know, when you analyze the president's statement, it's like he's saying that there has been assassinations in the past, and he's saying never again will it happen. So, if you critically look at that, I'm a mathematician. I'm not a student of literature or English, so I don't pretend to be. But if you look at that statement, it could also signal some element of also go to that direction, even in the current death. And that's why, from where I sit, I think that statement is very loaded. And but let's not go that direction, because this gentleman has settled. I think the family has said they are clear on what has happened. But what we need to note,
if we were to learn lessons, we wouldn't run away from this. The utterances that politicians make on dioceses and in public places, only to say, let's put it aside. When you have sent electorates to a certain thinking line, how do we get away from that? I mean, what do we learn? You are a sitting member of parliament.
What we are saying is, and we've said this, you know, what normally happens, Doris, and it's very common with some of us who are in politics, is that when we start talking, the mouth goes ahead of the brain, and that's where we have a problem. It's the mouth racing and the brain catching up. so let me just finish what I wanted to say. So that's the challenge, and that's what we're saying. And then the lesson learned is, whether you are a politician or not a politician, you need to think before you talk, and look at this statement I'm giving out to the public there. What is the interpretation? So I think it's critical, was said by also Honorable Chamatia. You know, we are saying we have parliamentary committees. We should also look at this thing. But I'm telling you, very few parliamentarians would have the access to the nitty-gritty details of what happened. I just want to quote some best practice in other countries. What happens if you sit in the Committee of Defense, or you sit in the Committee on Internal Security? What would happen is government would vet a few members of those committees. You must be vetted first, who can now be in a position to access all the nitty-gritty of what happens in the security sector. And in that case, then you'll be able to have that independent eye, which can be always knowing what is happening. And they're actually sworn in. That's the best practice. And I think that's the direction we need to go as a country, that we have these two committees, because they are sensitive. We have members in those committees who are vetted, and then as a result of that, they can access more information and tell Kenyans whether we are getting oversight now. Those two areas. I think that will help the country. But generally, as you're saying, a lot of lessons learned, and we'll continue learning for the sake of the future. Thank you.
You know, Doris, I want to say two things. One, responding to Dr. Cruz, that I'm not a UDA member, I'm a Democratic member. And I don't defend Kenya Kwanza, I don't defend UDA government, I defend Kenya Kwanza government. I think it is important to...
What is the difference?
There's difference. It's a coalition government of different parties, just as these guys have Azimio coalition of different parties. Having said that, I think it is, allow me to use this word, it is reckless for any politician to try and bring in the issues of there is likelihood of some marriage as far as the death of Ogolla is concerned, or political assassination or something. It is extremely reckless. Because I have reasons why I'm saying that.
I just want to raise the questions that have been raised.
Yes.
In his position.
Yes.
Where he was, all right, there have been questions of where was the defense CS, interior minister in that particular mission.
IG.
The IG. Those are the questions that were raised. Purportedly, they are probably not saying there was an assassination, but there was a question of why was he on that particular mission in his position.
Why did he become the face
at that
of
point?
internal security?
That's the question which we should be asking, but we should not be insinuating that the government of President William Ruto has an hand as far as the death of General Ogola
maybe
is
I can
concerned.
add on.
I think it's very reckless for us and senior politician to try and
But then why would the
insinuate
president himself
anything like that?
answer this
The
to
president,
the public?
yes,
Wait.
about
Please, just explain to the public.
extrajudicial killing. Yes, because it has happened in the past.
Roko.
And president said, even when he was sworn in, that there shall never be again extrajudicial killing in the Republic of Kenya. And
So was this extrajudicial killing?
No.
right.
And
What is the word again?
he was trying to respond because
Gentlemen.
senior politician from that region started mentioning about Ouko, started mentioning about Bai, started mentioning about other senior
All right.
politicians who have died or who have been
Doris,
killed.
maybe we should
All
start
right,
communicating in our mother tongue so that we
I want
don't...
to come back to that because the other concern that Kenyans are raising is the inconclusive nature of this past historical death.
Yes.
I remember the widow of one of the heroes died, still waiting to know where the remains of her husband, who was a warrior, freedom fighter, was, of course, Didan. And let's pick it from there. I mean, is it one of these things that are resurfacing and making people go back in history and saying, as much as you're probing investigations into this very able now late general's death, how are we sensitive enough as a country to learn from the past and be conclusive on these probes this far? Jamatia.
Thank you so much. I want to say, first of all, how I understand the president yesterday was when he referred to there will be no more, there shall not be again assassination, and he referred to the Rivayala.
Yes.
The
extrajudicial
extrajudicial killings. But in this context, we are talking about prominent people dying in Kenya. One of the big problem with us human beings is that people die every day, but until someone who is very prominent dies, and then it is shrouded with a lot of mystery, that anyone else would have died in a crash, but it is always taken.
But data has it that it's been a little more rampant.
Exactly.
The past few.
I think there have been 4 so far.
Yes.
There have been 4 so far, and that is why we should be putting our eye more in the military and the militarization of all these crafts and all the things. Who buys them? Where do you get them from? Who is the one who procures? Because whether we want to, unless we become honest enough and discuss these things openly, or at least we have a proper report on where do we get these choppers from? Where is our military wares, procured? Do we get it as donated? Because many times, as a Commonwealth country, sometimes you get a donation, and because it is military, because it's internal security, there is always this mystery that you don't question these things. And when you don't question, that is where we should now look at, the beginning of all the problems. If you ask me, honestly, it is the cause, it is what made General Ogola to go to North Rift that we should be looking into so much. Because Ogola is dead. What is this that made General Ogola took up a chopper and become the face of security, while we have an IG who was not present in the site? As much as he was internal security has a whole docket that deals with these issues of internal. Military many times deals with external aggressions. When you have a whole General Ogola dying in our country, doing security work that is supposed to be, it's okay as part of his duty as an operation that was going on, but being the face is where all of us should look at. Whether there are people who are supposed to be doing their job, but they are not doing the job. That is my concern, because I come from that region. Actually, he was in Baringo. He was in Baringo. And if you look at as much as the presence of KDF is there have also been a lot of killings of late. So presence of KDF, which is supposed to be the most serious unit that should be dealing with those bandits, and at the same time, it took the hand of a whole general to go and visit the place While even as he left and I mean, he was involved in the crash, the following day we were having a whole sweep of bandits terrorizing the village.
The following day.
Exactly, in the same place. So that is, I think for me, as much as we deal about this crash, we need to look at the genesis. What made Ogolla took this flight or chopper all the way to Baringo. Another thing is we need to look at the black box. General Ogolla was a qualified, the most trained pilot, specifically jet flight.
Fighter.
Jet fighter, sorry. That means we must have said something during that crash. That should give us an hint on whether we would, when we get the black box, it is very possible that he would probably say, fix something, do something. I mean, that is how we will probably have an hint. Because if you are you have knowledge of, if you are a driver and you think your brakes is breaking, there's always something that you will probably comment while a situation like that can happen. That is my
be that as may, we also do know that the former President Uhuru Kenyatta and the former Prime Minister Raila Odinga did skip the Ogola's burial in Siaya, and we have some anonymity speaking to a political affair kind of concern. However, of course, it is reported they gave their condolences through Raila's brother. Of course, Uhuru Kenyatta was on a work call. Raila Odinga was indisposed. There's still questions around. Could it be that the narrative of the ghost bombers coming in might have pushed some forces away from being present
and actually,
at that point?
And actually, it's like you read my mind, Doris, and that's why I wanted to start by asking the question: why bring bombers now that General Ogolla is dead?
Because Makali says we need to move past that.
Exactly.
By now.
But see, there is a reason why bombers is now resurrecting. The ghosts of bombers are coming back because I clearly can see a government defending itself. You see, this government has now been in power for what, close to 2 years now? Close to 2 years. We've also had the NADCO conversation,
of course,
the National Dialogue conversation, where issues of elections also came up. It is at that forum that what transpired in bombers ought to have been exposed, so that Duale now cannot tell Kenyans, we have evidence of Ogolla resisting, cajoling from his seniors, go to bombers, that ought to have come then. But it's now coming conveniently because, in my honest opinion, everybody wants to look nice, good, because now Ogolla is dead. And this is making people ask more questions. But Doris, having said that, I think, first of all, we are dealing with the irresponsible leadership in this country, especially in terms of the way they are communicating to the general public. Because it is this communication that's actually making people ask many questions.
Is that a bit too general, Dr.?
Well, generally, yes. I would say generally. I mean, there are exceptions to some of the politicians, the way they communicate. But generally, especially when it comes to the death or the burials of a prominent personality, people will go reckless. And now I would like to borrow the words from Honorable Ruko. Politicians will go reckless and say utter certain words without necessarily knowing the implication of what they are communicating to the general public. And this is what is annoying members of the public. I believe that going forward, one of the lessons we really must learn going forward is, government ought to be able to communicate clearly and to be cautious about what they put out there. Because now when Duale comes and says we have evidence of Ogolla, back and forth with his then boss Kibochi, and then on the other hand you have President William Ruto alluding to the fact that Ogolla actually confessed to him what they did in BOMAS, but he forgave him, or he gave him 3 options: forgive me, send me to court-martial, or is it what?
Sack me.
Sack me. See, that's a very serious, allegation. Now that the man is being spoken of is not able to defend himself. And the other lesson, I think, maybe for people in prominent positions in this country, and this I'm saying in a very light touch, because yesterday I spent some time speaking to some very close friends of General Ogola, and they said, I think Ogolla died because of his simplicity. And they are saying it in a very nice way. That he was a very simple man, not a man carried over by the fact that he's a general, he's this decorated guy. People brought up videos of him when he was a very young fighter pilot training in the US with the Americans. They say the man was very simple. He didn't care. He treated all soldiers as equals, regardless of your... And it's because of that simplicity that he may not have taken seriously the equipment he was flying in. Because he will just say, what equipment is available to any.
But Daktari, every equipment, every Kenyan ought to be in a proper equipment, regardless of their title.
Doris, yes, but there is always extra caution. Do you see our president regularly fly the commercial flights? No, because he occupies a certain special position in our society, in our governance. So there has to be extra caution. Okay, we have to look at, I mean, that's why those choppers are even guarded, even though they would land, there's somebody guarding them. In case of anything, they are repaired regularly. Now we are being told this is a 1960s. This is actually a Vietnam sort of equipment. You know, 1960, and we are flying our most important person in this country, who is in charge of the safety of our country, with such an old aircraft, when we can actually afford the latest equipment.
Yeah.
You know, for me, those are questions we must be able to ask, and I hope in the probe, Doris, we'll be able to hear. How often was this chopper being serviced? You know, and who serviced it?
Doris, I think questions.
It is my
Hello,
time.
okay, all right, Makali, and then I come back to Turugu. Because when we started, Daktari, our quote said, in this country, we are vividly entertaining insecurity.
Yes.
So, you need to pick it from there, because if this would cost us such top leadership not once, and Kenyans are asking, is it then getting to a point where we're either comfortable or it is intentional?
No, you're not picking it from where he has left it. I think the way I look at it, let's focus on this equipment of 1960.
Still in the air.
In the air. And look at the kind of money we are spending on security equipment. And I'm telling you for sure, because I see the budget coming. We sit there with the Honorable Chamatea. The kind of money we set aside for security-related expenses in this country, you can't imagine. And we say, as we said earlier, there's minimal oversight of that money. We just give the money, lump sum. You are told it's for security purposes.
Can't question it.
You can't question much. So with that kind of money, I'm imagining that we should be having and the top of the range in terms of equipment. And we have also been having this, you know, there's this what they're calling it equipment improvement program, where they have been improving there. And I think over the years, because I've been now in Parliament for the last 11 years, every year we have been putting money for equipment improvement. So when you think of that and you see the kind of equipment our topmost security person is flying in, I think that's a question it's a lesson learned as we move to the future. I think it's something we need to pick and make sure that we upgrade some of this equipment, and where there is need, then you can. We are not saying any Kenyan should fly in such an equipment, but we are saying this kind of equipment should not be in our airspace. First of all, either you should have, even if you are doing just a simple bookkeeping, you would have written them off because of age, saying this one, even if you donate it to a school for learning purposes, you don't lose anything.
The way KK donated.
Donated to Mangwai School. So basically we are saying, if we really care about the security, and to me, what is very important is the issue of who are we talking about? Because as we are saying, some position in this country are position, and that's why you see Honorable Omburu and my party leader, Honorable Kalonzo Musyoka, was saying, the death of General Ogola is not a family matter. It's a country matter. You know, the position he was holding in this country has already put him above the family. The family is important, but it's no longer now the family to say when this followed or not. It's a country issue. And that's what we were saying, basically, that then if he's a country person, where the position is now, the interest is a country interest, then it means the way that position in terms of operations, day-to-day operations, is handled, then we need to handle it with the care. Because I'm telling you and I said it when we were starting research.
Yes.
Getting a soldier from the lowest level to become a chief of defense forces takes a lot of time, a lot of resources, and a lot of commitment. Look at the kind of training he has been subjected to. 40 years of training. So really, let's just learn the lessons, and for the future, we say, while we are saying Paul to all the families, but what lessons are we learning for them, so that in the future we don't come back to this show and start discussing the same thing.
Indeed, and I don't want to go too far back in history, but we do realize that one of some very key Kenyans as well, may the Lord rest his soul, equally very sensitive to the family watching this morning, and Kenyans in the corridors, in the cocoons, continue to ask, how far did we go with the investigation of the late Musando? Such questions, Honorable Ruku, have gotten Kenyans a bit worried that we are inconclusive as a country when it comes to lives of prominent Kenyans. The late Saitoti probes have happened. So maybe we can hear from Honorable Ruku here, who has equally been on the forefront for a number of bills in Parliament to just rectify some of the things.
Yes, Doris, that's why the President said that there shall never be extrajudicial killing in this country again, because the question of Musanda cannot be answered up to now, and many other Kenyans who have disappeared, like one of my very good and close friend, Vijiwe, and I say this with a lot of sadness, especially to the family and the very beautiful babies. We don't know the whereabouts of Vijiwe up to today. So there are many Kenyans, and that's why we have a president who is coming out strongly saying such kind of extrajudicial killing will never happen again. But having said that, there is a very important point which Honorable Jamatia has raised on the reason as why the main factor which killed General Ogola plus other soldiers is because of insecurity in Baringo, in the valley.
Which did not start yesterday.
And it has not started yesterday, it has been there for years. And the question is, what should we do as leaders of the Republic? I think something needs to be done in a very, very serious way. One, military or police cannot go and kill its own citizens. Instead, military should go and protect citizens. Now we have a group of community with guns, with grenades, which are armed, armed in a serious way. And they cannot just be arrested by police because they are fighting back. They are killing police. So, and we can't sanction military to go there because they have not organized themselves in what I may call in a group agitating to take over government. So they are just thieves. They are just criminals within gangs, and this criminality is supported by the culture. Going to steal cows and bringing cows back home is heroism according to the culture of those people. So
I'm sorry to interject, but we have people from this culture seated on this table.
One of them
is here. They say this is literally not just cattle stealing; it is robbery with violence.
It's violence, yes.
Killing people.
Yes.
And in the process committing murder.
I had a candid discussion with one of members or member of parliament who, in his adulthood, he participated. In that bandit way of life.
In criminality, let's just call it what it is.
And I can't mention his name. And he was telling me that this is like initiation. It's a way of becoming a hero in their community. It's a rite of passage. So how do we kill such kind of socialization within our community, within this part of our country? A lot of things need to be done, and I think military and security agencies who are doing the right thing to ensure that schools are being constructed. And the other question is, of course, you cannot have schools in secure environment. I understand there are some leaders of this gang who have taken over school and made it a home, and several wives. That classroom belonged to wife number one. The other classroom belonged to wife number two.
All right.
So this information is there.
Okay.
But we need, as leaders who are in the position, of security, managing security of this country, especially the minister in charge of defense and the minister in charge of internal security or national or interior, they need to come up with an extremely innovative ways of dealing with this problem once and for all.
Doris, just before maybe Honorable Devatian comes in, I think honestly it is sickening to me coming from Kapedo and that part of Turkana North to keep on listening to this kind of conversation. We need to come with this, we need to come up with this, and yet the information is there. We even know the people who are actually spearheading this thing. We know some of those members of parliament who actually instigate
you
violence.
You speak with confidence, Dr. Ogolla.
Yeah.
You know these people.
I can
Oh yes.
All right.
Oh yes. Even Honorable Debateni has even named some of them. If you go back to our videos, she has named them. I have named them myself, and I've reported. In fact, I can give you a history of the reports I've given to Saitoti, the late Saitoti, Katole Metito, the former PS governor of Nyandarua, Olelenku.
Okay.
I mean, we've spoken to all these people, we've given them information, including President William Ruto. I had a conversation one time with President William Ruto when he was a deputy president. And I told William, what is happening in Kapedo, the Baringo North and the rest, this is what's happening. And you know what Ruto told me? We know, but he didn't get in politics. What is politics when lives of people are being taken away every day? And you see, we are just admitting, and listening to Rocco here, we're just admitting that we have a failed system in this country, we have a failed leadership in this country that has all the intelligence, knows exactly how this thing is happening. Because, for example, Doris, let's ask ourselves a very basic question. What happened to Iganjo, the fake police officer who was actually leading?
He's around.
Yeah, he's still around. And he was given the ranks of what? He was a very senior police officer, actually in charge of stock. Government knows all these people, but it does nothing. Why? Because you have got people who are in government or people in political, so-called circles who actually know and they are probably involved. I will tell you, for example, the conflict in Turkana East, is because of the geothermal deposits in Mount Silale, where I come from. And the politicization is that Mount Silale is actually part of Tiati constituency, which is in Baringo. Yet the maps are very clear, both historical, otherwise. If you go to the Provinces and Districts Act of 1992, you will see for yourself where Kapedo, Silale is, all those places. But because there are some so-called prominent families in this country who are connected politically, they're actually sponsoring conflict. They are causing displacement. Government knows this. Nobody in government today can tell you they do not know. They have the intelligence, and of course, Honorable Rocco now is admitting we don't have a government that is sensitive. And in fact, the absence of government in the northern part of Kenya is even now shameful. It used to be us people in the northern part of Kenya. Now, it has come closer home to Baringo. No, we never used to hear reports terrorize people of Baringo. It was us, the Turkanas, who are being terrorized, Samburu, part of West Pokot. But now it has come closer home. Up to Laikipia.
No, I think.
So some of us.
Dr. Kuru is accusing. He's putting words in my mouth.
Wait, Rocco. Doris. Some of us, honestly, some of us speak from real life experience. I can tell you today, if I want to go to my village in Kapedo, it's just about how many kilometers from here? Maybe
around 5.
No, less than that. Maybe 300. Maybe 300 kilometers. As soon as I reach a place called Marigat, where Honorable Jabatian knows very well because she's a member.
I come from there.
I have to call the GSU camp in Kapedo and tell them, listen, I'm in Marigat. I'm about now to get into that route of the Rook, Nginyang. From Nginyang, I'm not sure about the safety of my life. I have to be met I have to be escorted from the junction of Chamalingo.
But these are Kuru's classmates.
Goja, listen.
He went to school together with those guys.
I never went to school with any bandit. But I'm telling you, I'm just giving you the real life experience of people in Kenya. In a junction called between Chamalingo and Kapedo, that's where the escort will always meet you, and Honorable Jamatini can tell you to be escorted for a kilometer, about 30 kilometers, just 30 kilometers to Kapedo.
All right.
The professionals from that area.
And you see, that is the cool because I'm making the request. Now, the ordinary Kenyan.
That's the question.
Yeah, the ordinary Kenyan may probably not even have the number of the officer
or
in charge
a phone.
Or even a phone. At least I am lucky. I can call them, tell them, I'm coming. Can I get some escort? They will come and pick me. But what about the ordinary Kenyan? People have been killed on that road.
Thank you for sharing that. Let me hear from
That's real life experience.
Exactly.
Because as we are speaking, it could have been a culture, but it has cost us.
It's not a culture.
Of course, there's a probe going on. According to Honorable Ruku, it's a culture.
Yes.
It's your initiation process. We need you to hear from you who have come from that area.
We're stealing a culture.
if this is a culture, it's getting out of hand.
Exactly.
All right. And what are you doing about it?
We are doing
You come
everything
from that
possible.
area.
That we are doing everything possible. You see, just like any part of the country, Baringo is also has a bouquet of all tribes. A culture. Every community in Africa, not Kenya, has a culture. But whether the culture is helpful or bad or good is another thing. In that part of Baringo, specifically Tiati, where I will probably call it the epicenter of banditry, and that is and I'm a member of parliament in Baringo. And for me, I have spoken to every office and anyone who cares to listen. The biggest problem we have in that region is warrant killing. That is not culture. Even if you didn't go to school, Doris, you don't kill people. You don't kill people. Even if you're a literate person, you don't wake up in the morning and plan to kill people because you want to be rich. By the way, the people who are killing people are actually bandits, are children who didn't go to school. If I show you the photos...
Which age group are we looking at?
I mean, 10, under 20. Under 20. Literally, I can even show you 9 years, 5 years, something. These are people who have grown with a gun. So many times I've asked people, how can such a young person get access to a gun and not a pen and a book? We have, allocated resources to the maximum. There is no any government that has ever given money to those areas of the Kirio. And if you look at it, we still complain the marginalization is still there. We are even CDF, for instance. CDF members nowadays get up to almost 200 million. Going for this financial year, we'll be having members going home through CDF, 200 million. If you are a serious leader, you don't need a lot of schools. You just need to mop up. You need to mop up proper resources and do most of those things.
We don't want to miss anything you're saying.
Yes.
I want us to sort your sound a little bit because owing to the fact that you're saying something very important, having come from there, and you represent not just women in that area, but it's very important to hear from you. And I want to hear from Honorable Makali Mulu because it's very unfortunate
it is.
that you'd bury your head in the sand and a 10-year-old is a gang leader. Call it a culture?
Actually, there's something Chamati has said which is very, and I think this should be to me, this is the thing to take home today. Why would a 10-year have access to a gun and not education? To me, that's the question. And what it says in simple terms is that there are people who are benefiting from this situation.
They have said they have named.
And they have been named.
Yes.
So the question is, if they are known, intelligence has been provided, how come that then those who are in charge in the government, those who are responsible, the duty bearers, how come they are not going down there and taking action? By implication, it means they might also be benefiting from it. So it could be a chain which starts from the 10-year-old having a gun, killing and taking animals to the other side, those animals being sold to some area, and at the end of the day, the route is shared by a group of people who are the people who should be making the decision. That's the only thing I can say, because basically, I remember early in the 70s, when during the era of Mr. Kenyatta, you used to hear about the shifter. You remember the shifter war?
Yes, yes.
How did you get rid of that?
Even SLDF.
We sorted it out. Yes, yes, it was sorted out.
Yeah,
How come we can't sort this thing which is just in Dano? And as he says, 30 kilometers. Imagine a distance of 30 kilometers.
Before you come, I want you to answer this question.
Yes.
Very briefly so that she can speak.
Briefly. I want you to imagine this. Pastors,
and then I will bring you back.
Nomadic pastors are very rich people, and they've got a lot of cattle. Imagine you are herding your 100 cows, which is probably a conservative figure, 100 cows, or even 50 goats, and then somebody has taken them on the barrel of a gun. You want to tell me, even on emergency rescue, how do 100 cows just disappear like that? Today, you drive in this Nairobi, even 10 cows, will you fail to see them? How do 100 cows, 100,000 of goats just vanish into thin air like that?
I think to hear from Honorable Ruko, and now I'm going to go straight to Jamatia because we cut her short.
It is true that this has been a business and the people in this business is known, just as we say that even war is a big business for those countries which are fighting. War is a big business. Even this.
So should we start investigating from these people that are known?
There's
even
no
to the
need
cause
of
of the
any
death?
investigation. People who are in this business are known.
Should be arrested.
They are known. It is. It has been running from that side of the country, and taking these cows and goats to different corners and making money. But having said that, there are a number of things which we need to agree on, or to. One is the professionals from this area. They also have a serious law to pray, and I think they have failed to a great extent. Dr. Ekuru here and his team from that area, they need also to agree that they have a part of responsibility which they should ensure some of these problems are resolved.
Which part?
Define that
Which
responsibility.
It's not.
It's good to be specific, Honorable Ruku, because
Any responsible
look at me and
Kenyans,
Jagatian and say,
any responsible
this is our
Kenyans
responsibility.
has a responsibility to ensure his village is okay.
How?
Ekuru comes from that area where there's this problem. Him and others, quite a number of well-trained professionals, elite, who have senior position in this government and also in different private companies. They should also join the effort of the government to trying to come up with a solution. Two, I am sure, 100% sure, that if there is a government which is going to resolve this problem once and for all, is William Ruto's government.
since last year, Honorable
Because
Professor Kindiki Kithure has been making trips to the bandit areas. They've been asked to surrender their,
And they're still not able to.
weapons, etc. Jamatia here, Honorable Jamatia, said just after General's death, the next day, there's a wave of killings.
That's true.
Then what is the problem?
That's exactly what happened.
Before we take a
But
break.
what I want to say is that if there is a government which is going to solve this problem once and for all, is this government. And if this government will not be able to solve it, it will be a big disaster for our nation. Why am I saying is this government which is going to solve this problem? It's because we have two gentlemen who are extremely committed in seeing this problem. The number of trips, the number of meetings which the CS Interior has held in that region, including with the politicians of that area.
I've ever had a meeting with Kindiki
All right.
in Baringo.
No,
I've had a meeting with him in Nairobi. But that's suffice to say. I want to say, Doris, when you talk about security.
all right. Unfortunately, and unfortunately, I apologize for this because we don't want to miss what you're saying. But we want to take a very short breather and make sure that everybody watching, streaming live, can get you clearly. This is the Morning Prime. But just as it sounds, the conversations are equally prime at the top of national issues.